Elizabeth Cunningham.
Hello, that's
What is
me.
what is going on? Thanks for doing this again.
Yeah, you're welcome. Oh my gosh, it's been a minute. I think it's been like a year since we've had like an actual conversation. So I'm just
Yeah,
excited to talk to you.
I know. It's like, and here we go. We're gonna have to record it because we're, millennials in freaking 2021 now.
Right,
It's
exactly. Like when do you not have everything in your life just on video or recording?
it's it's so nuts. Like that's all we preach now in business is like there's nothing else other than like get put out as much content as you possibly can.
Yeah, I have put out 4 pieces of content already today.
That's insane. I, but the I was thinking about like our friendship, and I was like, we've never really had like a ton of conversations, but I can consider you a friend just because like we followed each other on social for so long, and man, I think I've known you now for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I know. Well, and also like I think the same thing too, because I'm like, I feel so close and connected to you as a person, even though we've had so few conversations. But every conversation we have is just so meaningful and so conscious. And it's just like every time it has a lot of substance. Our conversations have a lot of substance. Like there's not a lot of wishy-washy, like surface stuff whenever. And we met at the gym.
Yep. You know, I've met some of the most important people in my life at the gym.
Really?
Yeah, I God, and now like I have a garage gym now, so like I'm a total loner and just work out at home and grunt every day. So it's like I miss the social aspect of meeting people at the gym. It's
Yeah. But just like from day one, I just remember having like really deep conversations. Like I remember one of our first conversations was like, what type of people have conversations with other people at the gym?
yeah,
Like you have to be really extroverted. You have to like really, you have to also like really care about people, or you're a total creeper. Like those are the options, right?
that's so crazy. I have a big butt, but I don't get a lot of like head turns. What is that experience like to be like a beautiful girl at the gym and like just having all the guys checking you out?
I mean, it's a couple different things. Probably, well, I say a couple, I mean, it's several different things. On the one hand, it's like there's like the really off-puttingness of it, right? Because there's like the unsafe aspect of it, like, am I okay? Which at the gym, like mostly you are, right? Not to say that I've never experienced harassment at the gym because I totally have. Um, and then there's the other aspect of it where it's like, yeah, I do look good. You're right.
Yeah.
Like it's a total ego boost.
Does it depend on how handsome the guy is?
I don't, not for me personally. Just because I find that, do you believe in like, there's a thing where, if you look at someone's, bone structure, I forget what this, like thought methodology is, but there's a methodology behind looking at someone's bone structure and basically being able to read like who they are as a person, almost like you're reading someone's poem, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think we just like I could be butchering this, right? But like I think we evolve in a way to be able to like gauge people's faces and like gauge their reaction just as a safety mechanism.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And so for me, yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with like if you're handsome or not. Like some people I think are really hot and sexy, and I also get like a really creepy vibe from them.
Oh,
And so, but then there's some people where it's like you're sexy and you're also like I'm feeling your vibe, you know. And then there's some people where it's like I don't think that you're like the sexiest person in here, but because of the, again, kind of a wooier term, because of like the aura or like the
yes.
energy that you have and that you bring, like that elevates like your attractiveness, right?
There's definitely something to like a person's energy and like being able to connect connect with them just on that vibe level. And
Yeah.
it's hard to explain when you just connect with somebody and you're like instantly drawn to them.
Yeah,
It,
totally.
it's,
Totally.
it's
And
hard.
I feel like we had that, like
Yeah.
maybe not in like a sexual or like romantic way, but like in like a, yeah, like we vibe, like we're on the same level sort of way.
I think we were both like just so young in our like aspiring careers, and we're like, we've
Uh-huh.
kind of like been climbing together. Like I see
We
you
have
doing
been.
it, and I'm like, there you go. Like I love to see you win. Like, and I love to see Parquar like coming out of you. Like, what the fuck is that?
No, I love all of your stuff. Every time that I talk to you, like, and you try not to assume even like good things about people, right? Like you just, at least I don't. Like I'm trying to not like assume like what your life is, but like every time that I talk to you and like you're killing it because you're always fucking killing it, I'm just like, yes, fuck, of course you are. Yes, awesome, awesome. Of course you're fucking killing it. Yes, yeah,
We're both grinders. I think
yeah,
that's, and I think when you find someone who grinds with you, it's hard not to have that connection because
totally.
not a lot of people get it, right?
Right.
Not a lot of people get that synergy and that like just urge to. I describe it as like there's little rockets exploding in my head at all times, and it's only the
Yeah,
hustle and the grind that makes those like rockets subside. And
it
there's
is. Yeah.
so tell, dude, I love what you're doing. Like you're so proactive in life, and I'm just so fucking fascinated by it, you know. And
Tell me what else you're fascinated. Like what part of it has you be fascinated other than the fact that I'm just like a fucking hustler?
yeah, like, okay, so I mean, aside from the fact that you're a fucking hustler, you're a straight up love coach. Like, and you're like ahead of the game on the concept of love. I'll share a story with you. I interviewed for my current job,
Hmm.
and my boss at the time, it was when I moved from Seattle to SoCal.
Hmm.
My boss right now, he goes, "Are you married?" And I go, "Dude, marriage? What is this hunter gatherer era? Like, who the fuck gets married nowadays? Like this is, I was like, first off, women used to get married for safety. Like now women are more protected than men. And like we don't need kids anymore because like there's plenty. You can just go adopt. And I'm in the middle of my interview.
There's so many children. Stop. I will put a little PSA in here right now. Just stop having babies and go adopt children because there's so many kids that need homes and we do not need to. There's 7 billion of us. We don't need any more. It's okay. We're good.
We
We
can
have we have populated the earth. We're good.
yeah, like the alpha race one. Like we're good. We don't need to add more. I have a daughter now though, but like it's so after that for sure. Let's cut it out.
But now that I've had one.
Hey, you know, they're really easy to make. You just leave it in and poof, you're pregnant.
Oh my God,
Oh
that's so
man,
great.
that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
Anyway, sorry. You were at a job interview. He asked you about marriage, and what were you going to
so,
share about that?
so I tell them, you know, this whole hunter gatherer, there's no way, right? This just doesn't exist. You shouldn't just be with one person, right? Like this is insanity. You know, and I never put it together. First off, never knew there was a label for it. And
Mm,
then to see what you're promoting online is like it's an opening and you're like ahead of the game on just the transformation of just thought patterns and breaking the traditional norm and like the courage it must take to be able to just be upfront with like the way you are. I'm fucking proud of you, like, because
mm.
first off, fuck anybody who like will judge you or judge your logic path because they're fucking morons. Like, you know. And hey, just while I'm on the protective side, if someone fucks with you at the gym, you just let me know. We'll fucking play it on his head.
Thanks,
I
Tony.
have to
I
say
appreciate that.
you know. But so yeah, I mean, let's tell people what you're doing. That's fucking
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you. I appreciate you expanding on that. I appreciate you being such a huge fan and supporter, and just thank you for the kind words. And I really do. I appreciate that. And yeah, so what I do, I'm a love coach, and so what that means is that I am a life coach that coaches people in love, sex, and relationships. And specifically, I coach people who are in non-monogamous relationships. And non-monogamy is an umbrella term for anything that is outside of monogamy. And so what monogamy is a traditional relationship structure that you would think of like that only has two people in it, and that the agreement of that relationship, whether that's explicitly said or just implied, is that there's only two people, right? That anything outside of that relationship is cheating or like not allowed, right? So that would be like, that's monogamy. That's like a traditional relationship structure. So I coach people who want to go outside of that structure and want to ethically go outside of that structure, right? So I don't coach people in how to cheat.
I feel like the end of Hitch, you know?
Right. But I coach people in how to have open relationships or polyamorous relationships, or I mean, there's just the thing about non-monogamy is that there is just so much to it. Like it could look like everything from just you have that traditional relationship structure and both people agree that you can go outside of that relationship, maybe just for like sex or play or something like that, all the way to like relationship anarchy, which is something that's like all labels are basically like taken down from relationships, and you really do just create relationships with people and allow them all to arise organically instead of like putting a label on like we're a couple or like we're this or something like that, right? So there's so much in non-monogamy, and that is what I coach people in. And I get to talk to people. I literally get to talk to people about like communication and healthy relationship styles and sex and pleasure and fun and like, it's so good. I love what I do. It's so much fun. And it does. And you're right though. It does take a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage to go against the grain of what we've all been taught, which is that you only can be a part of this, monogamous relationship structure. And it also takes courage to fully express your love. There's a lot of overlap into what I do with LGBTQ relationships. So I coach a lot inside of LGBTQ as well. So it does take a lot of courage to just tell people exactly how you want to love and who you want to love and all of that. And so also thank you for that acknowledgement of the courage that it takes to just share about it, because there's a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings out there in the wide world.
Where does monogamy begin? Like why is it such a tradition in society? Is it a safety thing? Is it something that was created through religion? Or like where does this whole concept of monogamy begin?
Well, that's a really great question, and there's lots of different ways that you can answer that question. One way is that you can go all the way back to hunter gatherers, where when we did start to become more what is the word that I'm looking for? When we started to become what is the word that when we started to like farm the land and create when we shifted from nomads to what's that word I'm looking for? Nomad to agricultural. Is that the word I'm looking for?
We're farming now.
Yeah, we're farming now. Oh my God. I'm like, why that word has literally left my brain. Okay.
It's okay. That's $100 word that you're searching for, we got to.
Yeah. But basically, we started to create structure. We started to create a lot more structure as a society, as a culture. And so it became beneficial to have, have more structure in that way. We have kind of solidified that through definitely there's a lot of religious backing to creating monogamous relationships. You can also look at it from a power dynamic of men and women as well, where there is a power dynamic of that in the history of monogamy. There is a power dynamic where men literally had ownership over women, right? And that's something that you can look at in our very, very recent history. I mean, it's literally as recent as the 1990s, beginning of 2000s, where there are still laws in the United States where a woman needs to have her husband sign off on medical paperwork in order to get simple procedures done, right? And so there's a very huge tradition in monogamy that has to do with the power dynamic of men and women. But also there are biological studies. There's a study about voles. There's these two different type of voles. It's really cool.
Wait, did you say voles?
Voles, V as in Victor, okay. OLES, the little mammals, little
okay.
creatures.
Voles? Okay.
Yeah. There is a study about voles where there's a certain type of vole that is monogamous, where they literally mate for life, right? And there's another different type of vole that don't. They have multiple partners throughout their little vole lives. And so they studied these voles, and they found that they had in the monogamous vole, they had one type of neurotransmitter in their brain, where with the non-monogamous vole, there was that neurotransmitter was not present, or was present way less. And it's like viripressin, I think, is the name of the neurotransmitter. But basically they were like, it's this idea, this is very new, where it's like, oh, are we biologically, ingrained with like monogamous versus non-monogamous actual wiring in our brain too? And so you can actually look at it that way as well. So there's a lot of different ways that you can look at it. You can look at it from a historical perspective, religious perspective, cultural. You can look at it from a biological perspective as well. But I think that the thing that makes all of it's very interesting, but I think the thing that makes the biggest difference is the cultural and societal perspective now, because like I said, you can come at it from a lot of different angles, but really what I'm concerned with and what I do is what works and what doesn't work, right? Like that's what I'm concerned with people, individuals, our culture. It's like what works and what doesn't work. And when we can look at it from that perspective of what type of relationship structure works, what type of relationship structure doesn't work, what you actually start to see is more of a spectrum for people. And most things are a spectrum. Most things are not like black and white, like it's either one or the other, right? Most things are a spectrum of like the Kinsey Scale for sexuality, where it has like do you know what the Kinsey Scale is?
I do not. No, you're gonna have to educate me.
So the Kinsey Scale, so Kinsey did you know who Dr. Kinsey is?
I do not.
Okay, great. So Kinsey is one of the leading doctors from the 1960s. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, ooh, like pull out your history, Elizabeth.
Yeah, that's cool.
So Kinsey is one of the leading doctors from the 1960s. He has one of the most famous studies about sexuality. He was one of the first people to, or rather, he was the first person, him and his team did the biggest study in sex and sexuality that had ever been done before. And it was like pretty controversial. And so what he saw is that human sexuality is on a spectrum, and he has it on a scale from 1 to 6. So 1 being like fully and completely straight, heterosexual, right? and then 6 being fully and completely gay, homosexual. And then 3 being in the middle, bisexual. Now, since that study, we've learned so much more about sexuality, and we have so many more terms for it because it is such a broad spectrum that we've really grown into, as a culture. I mean, some people have not grown into that. It's still very controversial for a lot of people. We all know that. But it is way more widely accepted than it was when this study first came out, right? So it's the same thing for relationships, where on the one side of the spectrum is monogamy, on the other side of the spectrum, and I'll just say polyamory just because it's a term that people are most familiar with, although I would argue that the farthest end of the spectrum is relationship anarchy. But if we go from monogamy to polyamory, it's a spectrum. And so somewhere in the middle is maybe like open relationships where you still do have that like primary relationship with 2 people where you do go outside of that relationship and explore and do other things with other people. But then you have, like a lifetime partnership with someone, right? And then on one end, it's just like, it's just only 2 people. In the middle, it's like, there's 2 people and all of these outside relationships. And then the other end of the spectrum, it's like a complete, and when I say breakdown, I don't mean in a bad way. I mean, just like deconstruction. There's a complete deconstruction of what we think of as a traditional relationship structure. So there's not a hierarchy in relationships. It's not like there's 2 people that are the primary relationship, and then there's these outside relationships where it's just everyone is in a relationship that works for them. And that might be multiple relationships and it might not be, but there's not necessarily like you are my one and only person and everything else just happens around us, if that makes sense.
I guess when you describe the scale from, going from monogamy to just everybody getting an equal piece of the pie, for you personally, where did that shift kind of happen? Because if I remember correctly, you were married, right?
I was, yeah.
Was that a monogamous relationship?
No.
No. At what point in your life did you find this kind of, was this something that you felt all the time and just said, hey, I'm different. I don't believe in this, in just this cultural tradition. And where did you identify it and like start to really, I guess, allow yourself to live this way?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. So I grew up in the Midwest, and I grew up in where I thought what my only options were you can either be in a monogamous relationship or you can cheat. Like those are your 2 options: monogamy or cheating. And I have definitely always been someone who loves multiple people at the same time. And I remember being in high school and I had a high school sweetheart. And I also had all of these crushes and not like, oh, I think you're cute crushes, but like, oh my God, like I really had like deep feelings for you, sort of, feelings. And I felt really bad about that because I had this, background of you're either monogamous or you're cheating. And so I felt really bad. Like I felt like a terrible person for feeling the way that I did about people. And fast forward to college where I really I didn't have my high school boyfriend anymore. Him and I broke up, but when I was in college, I dated a guy for how long did we date for? Like 3 years or something like that. But I felt the same way where I really loved this person. Like I thought that he was like my moon and my stars and my earth. Like I loved him. And I had all of these really strong feelings for other people. And again, like I felt terrible. I really thought that saying where it's like once a cheater, always a cheater. I was like, this is what they must mean by that. I must be that. I must be that person, even though I wasn't cheating. I just thought that I was like, I must just be
the thoughts. Yeah.
Right. Just the thoughts. And so I was just like, I must be born with this mentality. And I legitimately hated myself. Like I remember sitting on my bed, sobbing with my boyfriend, being like, I hate myself, and that was actually, I'd gotten really drunk and I'd made out with someone. And then I confessed to him like the next day. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, this is terrible. But it felt so good. Like, it also at the same time felt so right because I was really acting on my desires. And eventually he broke up with me because I did that a couple more times where I got drunk and made out with someone. And he was like, yeah, this isn't part of the deal. I'm not here for this. And I was like, yeah, I totally get that.
Like, I've kind of already tried it. Sorry.
Yeah. But then I was like, okay, well, great. I am going to, so if this is the way that I am, I'm just going to fully embrace that. And so I'm going to sleep with whoever I want. I'm going to date whoever I want. And I'm going to tell everyone about it. And at that time, I also didn't know the word polyamory. I didn't know anything about like ethical non-monogamy, anything like that. I had no idea. I was just like, nope, this is how I'm going to live now because I'm so sick of like hating myself and resisting all of these urges that I have. And so I'm just going to fucking do it. And then and at the time I have a degree in gender and sexuality. So I was studying about gender and sexuality in college. And I was also going to these lectures at a local community place that was putting on different talks and panels about sex and relationships and stuff like that. And so they had a poly panel. And I went to the poly panel and I was like, oh my God, there's a word for what I'm doing. That's so exciting. I'm like, I'm not crazy. It's not just me. Yes.
What is the exact definition of polyamorous?
So polyamory doesn't have like an exact agreed upon dictionary definition. So polyamory basically means many loves or loving many. Like poly is many, amory means love, right?
Okay.
It was coined by a person whose name is, Morning Glory Ravenheart Zell.
Oh my goodness. You better coin a term like polyamory with a name like that.
Yeah.
Like, that name is just destined for greatness.
Right, totally. And so coined in 1990 by Morning Glory Ravenheart Zell. Okay. And basically, like the term polyamory just means that you can have many loves. And so what people have taken on with that is that, well, here, I'll share my personal definition of polyamory. So my personal definition of polyamory is that it's the ability to have all of your relationships be fully expressed.
Okay.
That's the ability to have all of your relationships be fully expressed. And the example that I give is like, I was dating this guy in Kansas and we were living together. And then I also had a friend of mine who we didn't have like a sexual relationship, but we had a very like sensual and connected relationship. And we weren't dating. And we knew that we didn't want to date. We knew we didn't want to date. We knew that we didn't want to have sex, but we were very like physically connected. He would come over and we would cuddle on the couch. We would hold hands. He would kiss me on the forehead, things like that, but it was never sexual. But inside of a monogamous context, that wouldn't have been okay. But since I'm polyamorous and I had an open relationship, that was totally okay. It was totally okay to express those feelings and have our relationship be fully expressed in the way that it showed up for us, because you can't really control your feelings. You can't control your feelings. You can't control how you're attracted to someone. You just can't. You just have them. It's just information that your body gives you. Like that.
That's so tough.
Yeah, that's all that it is. It's just information that your body's giving you. Your body's like, oh, hey, did you
Start getting
know?
sweaty palms, your heart starts racing. You're like, what the fuck?
Right, exactly. And so it's just information. It's just information that your body is giving you. All of those things are just a communication, right? And so inside of, polyamory and, different open relationship structures, you can explore those feelings. That's okay. And the thing is that once you start exploring those feelings, there's so many nuances to those feelings because we usually think that those feelings are sexual, and they're not always, but we never let ourselves explore them. So we don't know, like those feelings that I had with my friend in Kansas, if we hadn't been able to explore them, I might have assumed that they were sexual. There's not a whole lot of way of telling other, other than if you explore them.
You just gotta go. You just gotta give it a shot. See what happens.
Right, exactly. So, and we explored that and it was like, oh yeah, like, how I feel is not sexual. How I actually feel is just sensual and connected, and really loving. And there's a lot of people who are connected to others in this way. But since we don't talk about it and we don't allow ourselves to explore it, we never get to fully experience it. So one of the things that I love about polyamory and other forms of non-monogamy is that you're allowed to explore and to see what that is and to answer those questions. And that kind of went on a tangent a little bit about like how polyamory shows up, but that's a little bit a better way to explain it than to just like give you a definition of it.
No, and I appreciate the
Yeah.
in-depth and like personal touch on that. Do you feel like just people are so different, right? And people are going to provide different, just the ability to fulfill different needs. Do you feel like with this concept, you're able to then, and I hate to use this term, but I can't think of a better word, leverage a connection with different individuals to fulfill different needs?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that one of the people that I follow is Esther Perel. She's a really amazing woman from Belgium, actually. She's like internationally known as a relationship expert. I highly recommend Esther Perel's podcast. It's really great. She interviews couples about their relationships. Really beautiful.
Send me some that you recommend.
Yeah, totally. And Esther Perel talks about how we have developed in especially more in like the modern world, we have developed this idea that our romantic relationship should provide all of these different things that normally an entire community provides. Like our one romantic relationship should be someone who supports us, who cheerleads us, who financially helps us, who emotionally supports us, who mentally supports us, who knows all of these things, who's our best friend. You have to be with your best friend. And they have to also be an amazing lover, and they have to fulfill all of your sexual needs too. And it's just like, holy shit, that is a lot.
That's a lot. There's so much pressure.
It's so much pressure. And not only is it just pressure, but it's also just completely unrealistic. Like, it's completely unrealistic that one person would fulfill all of those needs, nor should they have to. Like, why do they have to? Why did we decide that? I don't know. And I mean, I have some guesses, but like, I'm not going to go into that.
Give me one. Give me your top guess.
I mean, my top is just being territorial, that we're just like territorial and protective and we get jealous, that's it. Right. It's like number one reason.
Yeah. Do you ever get jealous when you're in a relationship and you're like, motherfucker, like, did you just really? But then you like, how do you overcome that? Because it has to happen. There's like, I've
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. I mean, you totally get jealous. Yeah, it's totally, and it's the thing is about jealousy is that it is a totally normal human emotion. It's really fun. I think one of the things that gets so blown out of proportion with jealousy is like this idea that we shouldn't feel it or something like that. Where it's just a complete break from reality. And whenever you have an expectation that doesn't meet reality, there's more of an upset about that thing, right? Like if you expect that you won't get jealous, but then you do, it's actually more upsetting that you're jealous because now you're also upset that you're feeling jealous because you quote unquote shouldn't be jealous, right?
okay.
And so it just compounds that emotion, right? And so number one is to just accept that, yeah, like you're a human and you have human emotions, and emotions, again, are just a communication. And so instead of getting upset that you're feeling jealous, get curious about it. Why am I feeling jealous? Why is this feeling of jealousy arising in me? And when you do that, jealousy is actually a tertiary emotion. So what I mean by that is that it's actually a reaction to a chain of emotions. And so jealousy is actually the third emotion that you feel in a reaction to something.
What are the first two?
So and that varies in the situation. So that's why you have to get curious about what your jealousy is. So let's say you're jealous because your partner is going out on a date with someone else on Friday night. Okay, great. Now you have feelings of jealousy. Okay, so why do you have feelings of jealousy? What are the other emotions that are showing up for you? And most of the time, the other emotion, so the secondary emotion is usually something like anger, frustration, annoyance, sadness, maybe even betrayal, something like that. So it's like, okay, that secondary, again, no need to freak out. You're just feeling emotions. It's just a communication. You're fine. And so then, okay, let's say that my secondary emotion is anger. Okay, why am I feeling angry? And it's just like, what is anger trying to tell me? And anger is trying to tell me that I'm afraid of being abandoned. Like I have a fear of abandonment. And so, since I have a fear of abandonment, I'm angry that this situation is happening. And since the situation involves other people, specifically my romantic partner, now I'm jealous of the circumstances. But it's all a chain reaction from that source emotion, which is usually some sort of fear most of the time. Like I would say 9 out of 10 times, that source emotion of jealousy has to do with fear. And fear of abandonment, fear of rejection. It may come from like an attachment that you have to something like an idea or a concept or a person like your partner. And so really just going all the way down to that source emotion and then being able to deal with that emotion. Okay, this is triggering my fear of abandonment. All right, so logically, and then you can go through it in a couple of different ways, right? And I would say if, depending on how strongly you feel this emotion, to not process this by yourself, talk to a therapist, talk to a coach. Like if this is something that you're feeling really strong, like on a scale from 1 to 10, like 10 being totally debilitating, like you feel like there's nothing you can do about it and it's actually impeding in your life, I would say talk to a professional about that emotion that you're feeling so that you can process through it, so you can work through it, so it's not an impediment on your life, right? So jealousy has to do with that core emotion that you're feeling. Jealousy is really just a reaction to something rather than the actual issue at hand.
God, I don't even know where to go with like how many questions I want to ask, but I definitely love what you're doing. Like
Yeah.
this concept is so forward thinking. It's it's so appealing, I think, to so many people, and fear is probably one of the reasons they'll never explore it, right? And in today's world, like, for all the shit we're going through, I do think society is becoming more accepting of who you're allowed to love, and
Yeah.
then and now how many people you're allowed to love. When I think about what you're doing with, and as you talked about, just cuddling with somebody,
Mhm.
right? Like, having that person that you feel so comfortable with. There's moments where I think a cuddle is more intimate than the sexual experience,
Totally.
right? And like, when I think about, like, for myself, the type of like relationships I have, and it's tough for me to give in completely to somebody because I have so many layers to break through. But that moment of cuddling is like a moment where you get to show somebody your weakness,
Mhm.
and to give that to an individual whose sole purpose is to, like, be there for you in that moment. That's got to be so freeing and so special and so heartwarming, because
Mhm.
you're right, like, one person isn't going to be able to hit on all the different facets of what we need as we're looking for that relationship or for that stability in our partners.
Yeah.
It's it truly is eye opening. Have What are some of the challenges you faced as you've, like, explored, as you've kind of grown into this coach and started promoting yourself as the love coach who really instills a polyamorous lifestyle into, really just promoting it publicly and freely?
Yeah, I think one of the thing and actually one of the things that I want to say too is that one of the biggest personal breakthroughs that I've had is uncollapsing vulnerability and weakness, and that being vulnerable isn't being weak. Like that was literally one of my biggest breakthroughs in my life, right?
Yeah.
And that is just if there's a breakthrough to be had, especially with someone who is more masculine, that's a huge breakthrough to be had. um and uh and like as far as being open about what I do and the challenges that I face, I think that the biggest challenge that I face is that people don't know or understand what I do, and also have a lot of their own preconceived notions about what I do. Like, people hear polyamory, or people hear non-monogamy, or people hear love coach, and you already have like a preconceived notion about what that might be. And so the biggest thing is really educating people about those topics and what it is that I do. And, for uh, it takes a lot of conviction to be authentic and to share authentically and to be 100% who you are, and share exactly how you feel about things, because regardless, there are always gonna be people who love you and appreciate you and are your number one fans, and then there's always gonna be people who aren't that, who disagree with you, who or even don't like you completely, or whatever. Like, there's always going to be people in every single one of those camps, no matter what. And I think that one of the things is just to be accepting of that, for my own self, is to just really be accepting that the people who love me, and the people who don't love me. And sometimes the people who love me may turn into the people who don't love me. And sometimes the people who don't love me may turn into the people who do love me,
It's hard not to love you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Do you know? Like, how courageous what you just said is?
Mm,
To be able to just not give a fuck and give other people power over you. I
mm,
forgot where I was listening to, and they were talking about the judgment of other people, and it was probably the Joe Rogan podcast. But anyways, the guy stops and goes, "Who's they? You keep bringing up they. Who's they?" It was Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Right, and it's like they, all the people who are out there just to judge from their basements. You know, and for you to be able to put it out there and just be that freeing, I'm so proud of you, and it's so impressive that so many people are restricted by like what others are going to conceptualize of them, what others are going to think of them. Like I get hate on my 4 a.m. post, like all the time. Just like I remember when I was coming up and my friends started calling me White Tony, and like being Hispanic from East LA and being referred to as White Tony is like, all right, am I losing myself? And now I just go for it. I'm like, fuck it, I'll wear pink flamingos too if you want. You know, but and now it's, you know, now they ask me for a job, but it is what it is. And and just that ability for a person to free their mind, free themselves of the monogamy of tradition, right? Staying to the course of what people expect because that's the easy route. But then then you free yourself of all that when you go against the grain.
I've had a lot of years of practice. It's not like I woke up yesterday and was like, you know what, I'm just gonna totally be authentically myself and not care what other people think. It's definitely been years and years of practice, especially, you know, I identify as queer. And so as someone who's always been very sexually active, as someone who has always not always, but for a long time, like I started practicing polyamory when I was 21 and I'm 32 now. So it's been 11 years. Yeah. And I have been like really out as being queer in the past several years as well. And so when you have had, like, when you're someone like me who's had a long history of people telling you that you are bad or terrible or going to hell or disgusting or, you know, all of the things that people have told me, that you really get into, you have a lot of practice in processing that. One, you have a lot of practice in processing that. And you also have a lot of practice in being yourself, just like unapologetically being yourself, being like, okay, I got it. You think I'm disgusting. I love who I am. Yeah. Like, I got that you feel that way about me and I love who I am. And then there's another level to that, which I think that is really important, which is to have compassion for people who don't like you. I have a lot of compassion for people who don't like me because they have the experiences that they've had in their life, and they've been told what they've been told, and they've learned what they've learned. And now they feel how they do about me based off of all of those things. It has nothing to do with me. It really doesn't. And I have all the compassion, and that I truly believe in my heart of hearts, that is what there is to do to change the world, is to have compassion for the people who don't love you.
That's absolutely phenomenal. I don't know if I can add anything. I don't know if I could add anything to that. Like, I don't know how you get to be such an incredible human as yourself. Like, you figured it out. You know, you figured out this crazy world, and you're living by your own standards. And you know, I'm a fan. And I'm truly impressed.
Thank you. And it's not, and I don't want to like come off as a saint, because it's not easy, because there's certainly times where I read shit on the internet and I'm like, you fucking idiot.
Isn't that the fucking world right now? Like, holy fuck.
So it is a conscious effort and a conscious practice for me to have that compassion for people. And it's something that I'm continually growing and leaning into and expanding myself into as well. Like, I'm not a saint over here. I'm not like the second Jesus coming or by any standard. Okay. But I do truly believe that's one of the keys is like, if I say that who I am in the world is unconditional love, then that's what there is for me to do. Anything else would be incongruent.
That's fucking awesome.
Mhm.
I'll tell you, as one of the things I've been practicing for years now is this is really weird. I hang upside down every morning, and that's how I meditate.
Ooh, I love that. I love hanging upside down. It is amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
continue.
So I go into a meditation, right? I do my prayers, and as I come out of my prayers, I want to do three things that I'm grateful for. And it's easy to be grateful for parents, your job, whatever, your health. But one of the practices I've been trying lately is I choose someone who's hurt me, and I say, I want to be grateful for them. I want to be grateful for that experience. I want to be grateful for something that's deep within me that fucking hurts. And I'll pull up the memory, or I'll pull up the individual, and take a moment to thank them for the influence they've had in my life. Because no matter what, whether it was experience or a person, like, they got me to who I am today. Because everything partakes in molding the individual that is here before us, and that has really allowed me to kind of let a lot of shit go, and really just, I even feel like happier throughout the day, just incorporating that little bit into my meditation has been huge. And I can talk to those people now, or I've sent out messages to people that I haven't connected with in years because I held a grudge, and to think about them in that moment is probably just because I'm losing blood. But then afterwards come out of it and just be like, hey, it's been a while. Just want to show you some love. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm not as good with words as you are. I wish I could paint it prettier, but
no, that was beautiful. That do not diminish what you just said, because that was really beautiful. And I think that you pointed to a lot of things that are really profound and key to being a healthy, happy individual, because it really, one of the things that I heard in what you said is the power of gratitude. Like, gratitude is so powerful. And B, like, you really give yourself the choice in how you get to be in your life. Because that's what has us be like upset, stuck, blaming others, not taking responsibility for ourselves or our lives, is that we forget, or we don't know that we have a choice in how we get to be about it. And in you choosing how I'm going to be about this is grateful. Not only does it give you the power back in your own life, because that gives you power. It's like, I choose to be grateful about this. And that takes all the power away from other people. It takes it away from circumstances, because you could be totally justified in being mad about whatever you're mad about. Like, we can be justified in anything that we do. We're really, really good at that as humans. We're like super good at being justified at literally everything that we do. But instead of being justified, you really give yourself a choice, and that gives you power in your life and who you get to be. And that choice allows for happiness and freedom, and just like setting other people free as well. Because when you set yourself free, you set other people free as well. Because now you don't have all these people who are like caged in your life and can only be a certain way around you. It's like they get to be free now too. And you're a leader and leading by example and being that way. I think that what you just said was beautiful and amazing. And I want to acknowledge you for that practice.
Yeah, that's, man, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I recommend it. Yeah. Everybody get an inversion table.
do that. You can just have a gratitude practice.
Yeah. I wonder what my neighbors think too, because I'll do it with the garage door like halfway open sometimes. Like, is his head upside down? Like, oh my God. All right. Well, hey, this has been awesome. We're going on an hour, so I'm gonna flip the grid view to show you and give everybody a message and give the world something special. Pressure's on.
All right. Know what you are committed to, and then stick to that. Like, get clear on what you're committed to, whether that be love or peace or making a difference with people or gratitude or contribution, whatever it is that you are committed to in the world, and then act in accordance with what you are committed to.
I fucking love that.
Mm-hmm.
How can people get a hold of you?
I have a website.
Let's go. Quickly send it to me because I'll create ads for this.
Yeah, totally. I'll send it to you. But it's ElizabethAnnCunningham.com. So it's Elizabeth with a Z, Ann without an E, and Cunningham like clever pig.
Okay.
Yeah. And then that also on my website has my newsletter. It has my social media. Most social media platforms, you can find me at Els Cunningham, ELZ Cunningham. So that's my Instagram handle. That's my Twitter handle. I believe on Facebook, it's Coach Els Cunningham because someone else took the ELZ on Facebook. I know.
Yeah, buy them out though.
How dare they?
How dare they? Let's go show up. Let's go show up to their place real quick. Tell them you have a Mexican friend from East LA.
I love it. I love that. Oh my gosh. Okay, I have a funny story about like using my friend's demographic as a leverage. I was a little intoxicated one night, and my friend is from Brooklyn. I have a friend who's from Brooklyn, and she's fucking feisty. Like, she's from fucking Brooklyn. Like, she will tell you. She will tell you what's up. Like,
people from Brooklyn are gonna let you know they're from Brooklyn.
Right, exactly. She's from fucking Brooklyn, and we were drinking one night. Right, we were in Kansas City. And we were drinking, and like this guy like would not leave me alone. Like, I was just like, get out of my face. I do not, because you do the polite thing where you're like, oh, thank you. I'm just here with my girlfriends, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like keeps persisting. It's like, dude, like, I need you to not. Okay. And he wouldn't let up. And I got in his face and I was like, my friend's from fucking Brooklyn. Like,
oh my God. He's got to back up at that point. At that point, you're just like, oh, not messing with Brooklyn people.
Right. Well, at that point, it was like, okay, someone has made Elizabeth so mad that she's yelling. Maybe we should go to a different bar. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's freaking awesome.
That was for my friend's birthday party. Yeah, that's right. We were in Kansas City. It was for a birthday party. So it was like a group of girls. So it was one of those nights where it's just a bunch of drunk white chicks like roaming around bars. So hot mess, super hot mess.
Hey, the guy's probably like, easy picking. Nope.
That's why he wouldn't leave me alone. He's like, no, you should be easy because look at you being a drunk white chick. And I'm like, I'm a drunk white chick with a friend from Brooklyn. Get out my face.
You gotta, next time y'all go out, you gotta get that on a t-shirt. Like, my friends from Brooklyn, just with a giant like stop hand, just pushing them away. I'd back up if I see a group of girls and they have a shirt that says my friends from Brooklyn. I'm out. Like, I'm not sending them a margarita. I'm out. Like,
Oh my God. Okay, there you go. There's a little bit of my humanness. I actually don't drink anymore. Fun facts. I don't drink anymore, but
Hey, shout out. Neither do I. Since when?
Since actually it's only been a couple months. It's been a couple months now. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I hate to say sober because people think I quit drinking because I was like taking my pants off at parties.
Yeah. We can have a whole nother episode about like advertising being sober, because I'm also not sober because I like was ruining my life or anything like that. It's actually a lot of for just like health reasons, just like mental, emotional, physical. Like drinking really, like, I mean, it's a depressant, you know? Yeah.
We definitely got to do this again.
Okay. Anyway.
All right. I'm gonna stop the recording. I'll stay on for a sec though.
All right. I love you.
I love you too.